Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. I'm Judith Cranus. Our May 20th municipal primary election is fast approaching. Democrats and Republicans will select their candidates for judges, school directors, and township, borough, and city officials. This is the election where Democrats and Republicans choose the candidates who will represent them on the November ballot. However, when there is a question on the ballot, as there is in the Kutztown School District, all registered voters in that district vote on the question. It's not just Democrats and Republicans. Any registered voter should come and vote. To check your voting status, you can go online to vote.pa.gov. And that is the official state Pennsylvania website. It's a government site, very safe. And there you can register to vote. You can change your party. You can locate your polling place, or you can apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. And the deadline to register is May 5th. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 13th. Now, the League, in its part, is interviewing those candidates who want to be interviewed in the contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and have the same amount of time to answer them. Let's begin.
Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. My name is Kay Herring, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Berks County. There are 7 candidates that are competing on the Democratic ballot to be a Reading school director for a standard 4-year term. They are Paige M. Brookins, Robin Kostenbader Jacobson, Migdalia P. Garcia, M. Amelia Portes, Yahira Stone, Jonathan Tinoco, and Patricia Wright. You may vote for 4 of those. There are also 2 vacancies on the school board, creating just 2 2-year terms. And there are 4 candidates that are on the Democratic ballot for those 2-year terms. They are Paige M. Brookins, Chantel Hector, Nick Philippides, and Yahira Stone. And you may vote for 2 of those. School directors govern the school district. They set policy, establish curricula, adopt a budget, and determine the tax rate necessary to support it. They select the superintendent and approve appointments of staff. About half the board is elected at each municipal election. They serve part-time and are not paid for their work. Each candidate's views are their own and not those of the League or BCTV. I'm here today with Migdalia P. Garcia, and that is how her name is going to appear on the ballot. Welcome, Migdalia. Please tell our viewers about yourself, give a general introduction, and tell us why you're running for school director.
Thank you for having me. I am a leader in a nonprofit organization with Communities and Schools of Eastern Pennsylvania. I'm the regional director for that organization. I'm a mom of 2 great Red Knights. I've been a city resident for over 25 years. My husband is also a Red Knight, born and raised. So why I want to run? I really wanted to run as a way to continue to serve my community and create greater impact. Allows me to be able to use some of that nonprofit skills to help and assist as a team and managing to make some of those decisions that we have to make for our schools and our students. I really wanted to be a representative for local civic engagement. It's an opportunity to strengthen the community within our schools and sometimes just be a voice for those who are not always heard. I think my connection to a lot of local agencies through coalitions and subcommittees and ties me to the district along as being a parent and fully engaged in our schools in that role through different groups.
Great. You've talked a little bit about your background, but what experience do you have serving on boards that make budget and policy decisions like this would be?
So, do I have formal background in board positions? No. What I do have, though, is experience with policy, experience with budgets. In a nonprofit world, you have to, right? Understanding that every bit of our budget and our policies others rely greatly on what we do. And making sure that following policy to a T and reading through things and looking at what impact that makes on which stakeholders is imperative in the work that I do. In some volunteer groups, also looking at policy and procedures just as important.
Thank you. What do you feel are the top needs of the Reading School District?
Well, Reading School District, I've been involved with Reading School District since before my kids hit kindergarten. Looking at some of the things that have improved greatly throughout the district, there are still some needs, and they may not be what might be a typical point of view. I'm considering things like students and the way they engage and parents engage, because I have a clear understanding that those engagement pieces lead to improved attendance at a school. And if we want to be productive in growing citizens in our city, we have to focus on making sure that they're there, right? Those kids are in school and gaining that education they need. There's different areas of focus, like supporting our school leaders. We have some great principals. We really want to be able to support their decision making, provide evidence-based curricula and evidence-based programming for students as well. I think that the biggest thing for the school board is to make sure that every decision that they're making or considering, they're always thinking about the student at hand and what's going to impact the student. That's from all the decisions, from who's going to be, who the administrators are, to curricula, a budget. All of that impacts our students. So that has to be at the forefront.
And it, of course, is a large district, and many different types of students need to have their needs addressed. How would you encompass all of that? For example, students who have English as a second language, special education, maybe low-income students. We have different ethnicities, race, and gender equity. How do you include all of that in how you address the needs of students?
It's a lofty question.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot to engage families and students when you're talking about a second language. We've done a great job in the district in translation services when it comes to flyers. They're doing a fantastic job when they're doing the phone calls and making sure that parents are informed in that. When it comes to the education of the students, we know that there is a disparity and the language barrier when it comes to the education piece. So what can we do as a district to provide translation services or educate our teachers on learning another language? So we're always forcing our students to be able to adapt, but how about we make full circle and use a holistic approach and help our teachers in that? Looking at students with special education. For special education or gifted students, and we're considering their IEPs, what more can we provide is a lofty question itself. I'm sure I can go into a little bit more detail, because do we have the equipment that our special needs students have in our schools?
Thank you. What are your views on how social studies and language arts are taught in our schools? And should that include banning or restricting access to books or speakers in response to a parent objecting?
I'm a firm believer in that our life events in regards to social studies and language arts is what we need to be teaching. I think, though, if a parent is going to address or disagree with the curricula, let's address that parent. Let's talk to that parent. Let's bring them in. Let's have a clear understanding of what's going on. And we leave that to our school administrators to already address that as it is. But making a major overhaul and change, I don't think is necessarily the best the best road to take. We have to look at modernizing our curricula for sure. Our students we have to catch up to our students basically, and looking at where they're at versus asking them to historically learn in the same fashion.
Great. And what are your views on educator salaries and benefits? How would you deal with the teacher shortage?
This is something that we've talked about in our different community groups because teachers are imperative. We can't have great education without great teachers. We're talking about benefits and salary. I think we need to do a cost comparison to other districts. Where are we in comparison so that we assure that any teacher that comes to this district is not necessarily concerned about a wage, but focused on what the benefits are of being in this school district.
Reading, as one of the most underfunded schools in the state, may get additional funds from this year's state budget. What do you think it would be the most important thing to spend that money on?
There's a couple things, but something I mentioned with curricula, I didn't get to go too far into that, so I'll bring it here because I think that modernizing our education system so that it's updated, so that we have to be able to include technology in a way that's going to support education rather than take away from it. So things like how do we implement AI? In a way that is going to continue to urge our students to reach their passions and continue to learn in the best way possible and not be fearful of it. So I think providing some funding towards that endeavor is going to be important, just like it would with the new building going up fairly soon.
Do you advocate any specific changes to the curriculum at any level? And that would either be adding or subtracting subjects or programs?
When we're talking about curriculum, I'm big on evidence-based curriculum. I think that what we're going to add are any recent events that need to be added to curriculum. I think it's important that we acknowledge our history and where we're going, especially in an environment and a district that emphasizes their pride in their culture and where we've come from. When we're talking about some curriculum, let's look at like maybe some specifically math or science. With science, there's so many modern technologies we need to catch up to. With math, we have pretty low math scores. So what can we do with curricula that will help to increase our math scores overall in our schools?
Great. So the next subject is school choice, which is a big subject. So I have a couple of questions here. Maybe you can answer how you feel about school choice, and then whether that should include choices within the traditional public school or virtual academy. Should there be public or private charter schools? And then should the charter schools be publicly funded with tax credits or vouchers? So another big subject, I know.
Yeah, that's a lot asked in a question. Let me start a little bit backwards then. We're talking about funding. There has to be a combination of, right, blended funding of some sort, because you're looking at some students who are going to rely on some of the vouchers, but you also have those who might have a different socioeconomic status that will highly rely on tax credit. So I think that's going to be different depending on the charter school or if it is the virtual academy and what we're looking at in regards to a private sector. When we're talking about traditional public school, I do believe that school choice can be important. Schools currently, you're going to school whatever is closest to your proximity of your address. That might not always be the best fit for a student. So I think school choice within a district can be imperative to a student's learning. We go back to Virtual Academy you had mentioned. I think Virtual Academy is great. Virtual Academy applies to students who might not fit a brick and mortar. I know a couple students who are thriving in Virtual Academy but didn't do so in a regular school setting. So we have to be able to be open to a variety of settings for our students because, again, putting the impact on the student first and what's best going to suit them.
Great. And what are 3 things that you would like to accomplish if you are elected a school director?
So I think a big part is always considering the student first. I keep talking about student impact. I think that one of the big things I want to accomplish is having a way or finding a way besides kind of an open forum where we can gain community voice and hear from students and administrators, and utilizing that, and applying it to whatever decisions are being made. Supporting our school leaders making decisions, I think, is also something I would like to accomplish, and hearing some of that. I think providing reviewing the funding sources and the different programs to bring in a little bit more modern and catch up. I keep rephrasing the same things, right, as I go along. And the other thing is providing guidance and education, encouragement for evidence-based practices within our schools for addressing things like chronic absenteeism, addressing parent engagement. When we look at these practices, there's evidence that shows that they work, whether they're programming or their agencies or its curricula, and bringing that into our schools.
Okay, we have a few more minutes before you can give your closing statement. And you told us a little bit about your background and when we first opened the program. Are you active in any volunteer organizations? And maybe you want to share with us what you do in your non-working time?
Yeah. So I'm big on volunteer and community activism. So highly engaged in different coalitions. We're looking at collaborations with Berks Anti-Violence Youth, ensuring that we're communicating about educating students about volunteer work within the community on their own. Supporting things like Oak Brook Youth Foundation, or engaging in Emerging Leaders United through United Way. The list goes on, because it's really important that as a community member, we give back to the community that's helped us. I'm huge on it really does take a village, right? I have two students that I want to consider extremely successful. One is college bound now, and the other is in 11th grade. And I think that showing them the importance of civic engagement through volunteer work is just as important as gaining their education.
Thank you, Migdalia. If you would please give us your closing statement about why you're running for the Reading School Board.
I highly understand that the public education has to be at the forefront of what we do. We're developing or helping students develop the skills, the passion, and to be active citizens in what we do. I want to run for school board because I highly believe that empowering our students with knowledge together as a board has value, and not just for our students, but our community as a whole.
Thank you, Migdalia, for sharing your views with us today. Viewers, if you would please remember, there are 7 candidates that are going to be on the Democratic ballot for a full 4-year term for Reading School District. You may vote for 4. The candidates are Paige M. Brookins, Robin Costenbader-Jacobson, Migdalia P. Garcia, M. Amelia Portes, Yahaira Stone, Jonathan Tinoco, and Patricia Wright. There are also 4 candidates that will be on the Democratic ticket that are running for 2-year terms because they are filling a 2-year vacancy. You may vote for 2 of those, and that list of candidates is Paige M. Brookins, Chantel Hector, Nick Philippides, and Yahaira Stone. Thank you for joining us. You will find candidates upfront interviews both on BCTV and their website and their YouTube page. Or for more information, you may go to the candidates, go to the League's online voters guide at vote411.org. That's vote411.org. For more information on election procedures, contact Berks County Election Services, 610-478-6490. Thank you for watching Candidates Up Front with the League of Women Voters of Berks County. Thank you.